So we'll start with the first and get some of it out. I mean, he's a very, very, very funny man, but very brilliant man. He taught children for a living, became a principal.
Peter Kidd was and is my great personal friend. I say is because Peter's still here. Not in the visible world, but Peter lived in three worlds all at once, and he had for a long time. He passed away from the visible world on June 12th, a great loss. Peter was absolutely magnificent. He was a supremely talented landscape artist, innovative poet, novelist, publisher, editor of Igneus Press, a family man, gigantic intellect, and the funniest man on the planet. I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And all of us who love him miss him every moment, but he's here with us. I had a chance to be with Peter a couple times in Texas. One time I went down and listened to read and listened to Human Condition, a major work that's going to be published, a poetic work that's going to be published by Spoit and Dival very soon. And in fact, I had the opportunity to talk to Peter and Sophie the day before he died. He was all about the book and 5 novels he had ready to go. Plus, he had just broken through to some new writing, something that I was very excited about, that came up to the standard that he expected of himself. And when I got done talking with him, I thought, oh my God, the guy is like just on fire. It was really a shock to realize that he passed away the next day. But he had been ready all along, because he had talked to me about the visible world and death many times.
All right, the title is Detective. Behind a bouquet of roses, the sky turns blue. My feet wet with dew. I spent the night in a tree, tracking your scent, wafting through leaves, impalpable breeze on my cheek. Breaking news. I needed my glasses to find the missing telescope. A forecast of green stars made the late evening. They would rise above a forest of dreams. I checked my dreams at the door and entered the night. And you know, this is where poetry needs to go. It needs to get simple, clean, and in actuality, that's a multi-layered poem. You know, which reminds me, it's interesting. Some of the good poets today do in one stanza what Wordsworth used 2 poems to do and was revelatory, you know, pointing out the dual nature of human being. He'd write a poem that stated one strong fact, and then he'd write another one that took the opposite point of view to show you how your mind worked. Metamorphosis. I found my youth creeping across the road. How do you look now? It asked, handing me a mirror. Butterflies. Thoughts migrate from one mind to the next. Shortcuts of sky offer the best routes. Oh, let's finish with Cosmic Sandboxes. That's the title of the book. It's a group of Igneus books put out with Richard Martin. It's printed by Hercules Press in West Roxbury. We're trying to keep it simple, use cover stock, keep the emphasis on the text. And here's the last poem of Cosmic Sandbox, titled Cosmic Sandbox. I turned off the lights and the stars, came out to play. It made sense to join in their games. All maps indicated I had arrived where I was supposed to be. Hard Labor, poems by Richard Martin, Igneus Press, Canyon, Texas. And these can all be found going to our website, igneuspress.com. My phone number's on there. You can call me and I'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to get you a copy. It's been too noisy in my brain. I need the comfort of leaves falling from trees. I should abandon my chair, enter the wind as a leaf. Displacement. Objects surround me with their weight of light. How heavy is everything, really? Tons, we imagine, trying to move the simplest things to another place. But he always took on attention. His work was it was really great work, and it had a hook on it, and people loved it, and still love it. And he and a group of people in Binghamton put on a show called The Big Horror, and lots of great poets read there over the years. I know I read a couple times. Bill Kemet read, Wally read, Patricia Smith read, Lloyd Van Bronk read, Creeley read. You know, there's just lots of people. Jerry Rothenberg, I think, read there. It was, you know, it was an interesting crowd that passed through. And so Dick had a venue going on, and of course, so that meant he had lots of young poets that were hitting him up for his venue, just as I did at Igneus. You know, you had to, what you learn, and Dick told me, and he was right, he said, what you'll learn is so-and-so wants to be your best friend because he wants to be in your venue.
Which isn't a bad thing.
And that's not a bad thing. He said, this is just how it works.
Yeah.
And they get in it, and they go in your thing, and you never hear from them again. And there's other souls whose the poetry is secondary. It's the soul to soul that lasts a long time, lasts a lifetime. And Dick and I would fall into that category. We saw each other and had a lot of fun with each other. You know, we find where, you know, you try to sell books, but the beautiful thing about small press and poetry is that it really is a form of tithing, be it the publisher or other writers who pitch in, people who do typesetting. You know, even when they get paid, they're getting paid a pittance of what their value is, and you know, there's something loving that I love a lot about that. That we started off as a cooperative press, and we're still a cooperative press, and I think that's unique. I don't know any other press that's done that for 20 years.
Hi, Dad.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm so glad that you could make time for us in your busy schedule.
My schedule being quarantined in my house here in Texas, like all over America, people should be.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a really good quarantiner.
I am, because I like home.
It almost seems as if you've been like working up to this your entire life.
Right, it is. It's true. It's true. It's funny. You know, Martin's somebody special, and it should be read. If you
humor as a metaphysic. That's an interesting idea. Do you think that goes back into classical Greek aesthetic?
It goes further than that. If you read, and you ought to read it here because it's on your shelf while you're here. Read Rich Blevins' review of what was his other book? Boink? His review of Boink.
Okay.
Being a scholar, he takes you back and shows you where the history of this type of poetry began, you know. And but it's definitely, you know, I think it begins with the love for the oral, you know, because I always said, I used to tease him when he was younger. I used to say, well, you skip poetry and just do stand-up comedy. At least they pay.
And what did he say to that?
He loved it. He thought it was wonderful.
Wow.
He took it on for himself for a while.
Would you tell us about what came first, you and Dick Martin, or you and Igneus?
Ooh, good question.
We mentioned in our last video that Wally E. Butts was a big part of the early Igneus Press.
Right, and Wally
was Dick Martin also?
Wally came in '76
to Stone Soup.
To Boston.
What was the name of the venue of the Boston Poetry
Stone Soup.
Where was it held originally?
It was on Cambridge Street, right next to the jail.
Cambridge Street. And
yeah.
What was the name of the bar?
Oh, we were in a bar. Jack had a bookstore downstairs and an apartment upstairs.
What was the name of the bookstore?
Stone Soup.
Oh, I see.
And we held a reading there every Thursday and every Sunday.
Did you say Igneus came first? Or your relationship with Richard Martin?
Oh, I have to think through that. I'd say my relationship with Dick.
All right. Can you tell us about how you two met?
Yeah,
how you ended up making books together?
I remember meeting
Igneus?
him. Remember the night I met him? It was at the Green Street Cafe or Tap Room or whatever, and the front was a bar and the back was a room, and we'd hold a poetry reading on. I don't remember. I think it was Monday or Thursday. In the back of the room, and Jack would MC it, or one of his flunkies, and so then if you wanted to talk, you go around to the bar side, and you weren't interrupting the reading, and so I had met Dick while he introduced him to me that night, so I went down to have a beer, and Dick followed me down and sat up beside me, and we started talking, and that was I remember right off. I remember what we talked about. I remember exactly what we talked about. I talked about that the poem is actually the act. It's the oral poem that is real. It changes from word to word, and so we talked about the validity of the written poem and the oral poem, and a lot of what I was maintaining was that really good poetry in this period should be theater, should be theatrical. It seems like that's what it needs. It needs something to lift it back up again, something theatrical and funny as hell. So what if you do a sonnet? Do a sonnet. That teaches you the form. Big deal. You're not going to stay there. You still have to find your own voice. I have a thing about saying, and this poem's called, and this is usually by some kid who's shared it with 3 people. So who's calling it this? The title of the poem is, let's move on to that.